have to admit, Let There Be Carnage was a bit disappointing and worse, forgettable. That said, this Carnage figure is surprisingly good. I really like this cloudy background they provided. It reminds me of Sinister's Strangest World in Multiverse of Madness. But back to Carnage. Carnage is huge. I think this is the tallest Marvel Legends figure I own. Someone may know this. Is this one of the tallest non-giant Marvel Legends? I actually really like the size. It feels like a Hot Toys figure. And I love that they provided a bunch of extra accessories. There's an extra head, an extra pair of hands, and a bunch of tendrils. I may not be a huge fan of the movie, but I'm really happy with this figure. Last week, I repainted the animated Joker's face and transformed him into his Return of the Joker self. I much prefer that look of his. Too bad that figure isn't posable. Check out my animated Batman videos if you're interested. Let's deconstruct this figure. It's hard to tell the scale from promotional images, but look at how Carnage towers over Venom. And Venom is bigger than average already. Oh, speaking of, I didn't get the updated Venom figure. I'm pretty happy with this knockoff one here. Oh, look how puny Tom Holland's Spider-Man looks next to these two. He's not gonna stand a chance against both Venom and Carnage. What surprises me the most is that Carnage is even taller than Null. Another great thing about this figure is that he's very well sculpted. There's so much molded details all over the figure. This figure feels premium in hand, and the joints are nice and stiff. The red they use is also rich and vibrant. The black paintwork is pretty decent, except, does it not remind you of torch-pressed sushi? And now it's hard to unsee it. I also really like the glossy metallic eyes they gave Carnage. The teeth though could be better. And typical Hasbro, the backside is pretty much unpainted. There is a bit of black paint here and there, but it's not enough, especially when you put the tendrils on. This just doesn't look that good. A bit of black paint on the tendrils would have elevated this figure even more. But speaking of tendrils, I love that they're asymmetrical. They go really well with Carnage's chaotic nature. The open mouth head is pretty cool too. I always prefer the open symbiote heads. But just like Doc Ock, Carnage is a bit hard to balance with the tendrils. It's not impossible like the animated DC figures. The joints have decent amount of range and are stiff enough to hold various poses. Carnage looks awesome with all the tendrils and claws, and it looks even more three-dimensional in person too. My camera is not doing its justice. Overall, this figure is pretty awesome. An easy fix is to add a bit more black to the backside and the tendrils, and then finish it off with a glossy varnish. But I want to make a few more adjustments. I don't really want my Carnage to look like sushi, so... Hello, this is Ken. I like making things. Whether it's repainting my figures or making diorama displays, I love making things look awesome. My goal is to elevate my figures so they can shine on my display. Join my DIY venture as I ask myself the same question every week. Can I make it? In the movie, Carnage is quite orange, so let me try using an orangish red color first. Nope, I don't like it. I prefer a truer red. What I want to do is to make Carnage look less burnt and more organic. When I look at images of Carnage, I feel like I'm looking at some sort of internal organ, with teeth and claws. That is the look I want to achieve. Alright, this is what the figure looks like with 2 coats of red. There's still a bit of black coming through, which is what I want actually. Now I can build up the colors and layer them to hopefully add more depth to the design. So, instead of using black right away, I'm going to use this deep brown first. Black is too harsh and it's not a good blending color. It tends to turn color gray and muddy. Brown, on the other hand, will look more natural on red. If you go on a color wheel and darken red or orange, you'll get a brownish color. When I look at reference images, I notice that I can't see a thing. The movie is so darkly lit, but it appears that Carnage kinda changed over time. In the beginning, he's pretty much mostly orange, but later on, you can kinda see more black or brown on the body. I personally don't love how he looks in the movie. Also, I wasn't able to find any official full-length renders of Carnage either. Other figures like Hot Toys or SH Figuarts seem to depict Carnage with black stripes. So I'm going to do something similar and use a skinny brush and add the brown instead of black. I'm painting with a damp brush. This will help make the paint seep into the crevices and grooves better. And this will also make the paint dry in a more organic way. The goal is to make it look gross, kinda like looking at the inside of a monster. I also want to balance out the red and brown too. The original figure has too much of a clear divide, where the base figure is red and the black kinda just sits on top of it at various places. I want the colors of my Carnage to blend a bit more. I want the brown to appear to be on the under layer, and the red is bulging out of it, if that makes sense. This is actually quite refreshing to do. When I was doing cell shading on my animated Batman figures, every stroke and color had to be clean and crisp. This is the opposite. I can just let loose and I don't need to be precise. Okay, I am done with the front. Look at that backside. Ew, that just looks wrong. Let me quickly do the rest of the figure using the same technique, focusing on the sunken areas with the brown, and even out the black that's already there. If you're doing this too, don't do what Hasbro did. Hasbro added the black in the middle of each body part. Instead, the strategy is to keep all the raised areas and pointy bits red and paint the opposite areas darker. And that includes the spikes and the sights on the tendrils. Keep the tips red and add the dark brown or black around the holes. That said, I am adding a small amount of brown on the pointy bits. Just a bit. I still want the symbiote to look fleshy and gross, even at the tips. Okay, with that done, I'm now gonna go back in with the red to make the fleshy muscles pop more, and to correct any areas that I find too dark. Okay, I am happy with how it looks. Time to add some shine with a glossy varnish. Carnage isn't as slimy as Venom. When I think of movie Venom, I picture him having a wet, runny, slimy texture. But movie Carnage is less wet, more gooey, more like internal organs or intestines. So that is why I'm using a white brush to apply the varnish. That way I will mostly only hit the areas that are sticking out, leaving the sunken areas untouched, giving it more of a sticky look instead of a wet look, if that makes sense. That said, I think Carnage will look perfectly fine too if I add the varnish to the entire figure. I just want mine to have a different finish than Venom. Look at that! That gloss totally elevated the figure. But I'm not done with the body yet. I'm gonna now use the black to intensify the grooves even more. I'm doing this step after the varnish to further add depth to the fleshy texture, to kinda give it that rotten look. Not that he's rotting, but you know how Venom looks nice and smooth. I want Carnage to look the opposite, rotten and gross. And just like earlier, I kept my brush wet so that the black can seep and blend organically with the figure. onto the faces. These heads look alright. They have this rubbery look to them, so let's fix them, starting with the red base. Next, I'm going to use the deep brown and extend the brown patch around his eyes and mouth. When I look at reference images, the dark patch goes pretty far back. I'm also going to use this as my shading color around the jaw as well. Continuing with the same deep brown, let me define the teeth more. I'm quite lazy when it comes to teeth. I just wet my brush and let the wet paint do its thing. I'm also adding a couple of brown splotches onto the tongue as well, making it look more disgusting. Okay, this isn't really working. I was hoping to add a bit of shading onto the eyes, but without a base layer, the wet paint is just sliding right off the eyes. I could have painted over the eyes first, but I like the metallic paint they used. Oh well. Let me go work on the teeth more then. I'm adding a bit of red onto the roots of his teeth to give Carnage his gums back. This will also make the teeth look more realistic too. And while I'm at it, let me paint the stringy bits red again. They were originally red, but I painted over them earlier with the brown. But now I can make them look even more organic. A bit more red on the tongue to give it more color. And some final touches on the teeth with a warm white. Now let me dab the glossy varnish on the red areas, his teeth, and his tongue to make them slimy. Alright, here's the open mouth head. Look how much more depth there is on the painted head. The original head looks so dry and uninteresting in comparison. And here's the head with the grin. And I have to say, I actually ended up liking this head more. I think I did a fantastic job here. Maybe I could have done more to the eyes, but overall I'm very happy with it. Okay, let's compare the before and after, starting with base form Carnage. Ooh, I love how much more balanced the colors are. That backside looks infinitely better. It looks like a high-end figure now. And you know what's interesting? The red and brown made the figure look a tad more orange. The color is much closer to how he looked in the movie, if they turned the light on. Carnage with all the tendrils also look amazing. I don't expect Marvel Legends to have perfect paint apps, but this really shows that if Hasbro added a bit of black paint on the tendrils to begin with, the figure would have been really awesome. Do you have this Carnage figure? If so, do you like it? And how are you displaying yours? I kinda like the base figure more. It's more simple and to the point. He's definitely Carnage. He does look a bit lanky. Like, why is he 10 feet tall? Being this tall made this figure much easier to paint though. I had no issues getting my brush into those hard to reach areas. I feel like I didn't spend that much effort, but the final result speaks for itself. This is a really good size if you ask me. Now I kinda want all Marvel Legends figures to be this size. And here's my Venomverse symbiote family. This is a very tall family. Okay, null technically isn't the right null, but he fits right in. What do you think of my Carnage? Do you like what I've done? Let me know down below. Did I achieve that sticky look I was going for? And are you gonna paint yours? I feel like this is one of the easiest figures to paint. It's hard to screw this up. Despite me preferring the base figure a bit more, I think I'm gonna display mine with all the tendrils and all the weapons. Gotta maximize the Carnage and make him look like a monster, you know? Besides, that scythe of his looks really cool, and is also the perfect counterweight for the tendrils. Ah, look at that! This figure is so awesome. I feel like I'm looking at a Hot Toys figure. Alright, here's the comparison again with the movie figures. Yup, Spider-Man is definitely not winning this battle. The only downside to this look is that it does take a bit of finessing to get him to balance. I have to constantly lean him forward and give him a hunchback. But the good thing is that these poses work for Carnage. It just adds to his Predator-like vibe. But posing is limited due to him being very back-heavy. But if I'm desperate, I can use his scythe to keep him upright. Okay, let's end this with a photo shoot. I really like the grinning head. Not only does it look like Carnage, it also has this shark or raptor look to him. It totally goes with his unpredictable, dangerous nature. And I really like the paint job I did to the face. Maybe not so much the eyes, but the teeth are good. And I also feel like I did a very good job adding depth to the black mask. It really looks like it's sitting on a layer above the red, just like in the movie. As for the body, it does look fleshy. I honestly can't tell if there's more black in the movie, but I like the way he looks here. And maybe I'm biased because I just painted Carnage. I feel like I did a better job on Carnage than Venom. And I also think I succeeded in giving Carnage a different texture. He's not as slick as Venom. Carnage is one of those figures where you just want to keep taking photos of. He doesn't really have any bad angles. Yes, it is a bit tricky to keep him upright with the tendrils, but once he's standing, he's like a model. Maybe not the most attractive model, but the camera sure loves him. I had a blast taking photos of Carnage from every angle. Alright, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Give this video a like and subscribe to see more content like this. Should I go watch Venom The Last Dance in the theater? Or should I wait for it to go on streaming? I don't want to be let down. What timeline are we in? Agatha Harkness is somehow more interesting than the Venomverse in 2024. But maybe the Marvel movies are gonna get better. It does feel like things are starting to line up and about to get interesting again. I'm optimistic. And of course, stay inspired and I'll see you soon. I can make it, so can you.